entire time I've been at St. Anne's, I don't think I've ever preached on the psalm for that Sunday. But I am today. I just have to talk about this morning's psalm because it's such a powerful source of comfort for us in such troubled times. Psalm 46 uses two powerful images to describe our trials. One is the image of an enemy invasion. Picture in your mind Jerusalem surrounded by armies on every side, poised to attack, which happened several times in Israel's history. The psalmist proclaims, God is in the midst of her. She shall not be overthrown. God shall help her at the break of day. And a few verses later, it is he who makes war to cease in all the world. He breaks the bow and shatters the spear and burns the shields with fire. So you say you're surrounded by enemies. You're just waiting for the walls to collapse and be overrun and destroyed. God is with you. There's no army, no enemy that can prevail against God or his people. The other image is that of an earthquake or catastrophic storm. And it's actually more than either of those. It's the end of the world. The psalmist says the earth is moved. Mountains topple into the depths of the sea. The waters rage and foam, and the mountains tremble. The earth that God created when he drew it out of the chaotic waters of Genesis 1 is unmade and slides back into darkness and death. You say you can't see any way forward. All hope is lost. It seems that it's the end of your world. And yet over and over again, the psalmist promises that God is our rescuer and deliverer, enthroned on high. So no matter what is happening all around us, 3 times we hear the refrain, the Lord of hosts is with us, the God of Jacob is our stronghold. And don't forget that the Psalms were written to be sung. You sung part of it this morning. So songs of praise ring out over the storm and drowning out the shouts of violence. The Lord of hosts is with us. The God of Jacob is our stronghold. The Lord of hosts is with us. The God of Jacob is our stronghold. The Lord of hosts is with us. The God of Jacob is our stronghold. And then at the very end of the psalm, just before the refrain is sung one last time, God himself speaks. Be still then, and know that I am God. To the storm and the chaos, be still. Stop. I am God. God speaks, and with a word, his will is done. All obey, and we are rescued from everything that threatens us. Like many of you, when I was a child, my family spent many summer vacations at the shore. And for me, that meant Myrtle Beach or Ocean Isle, somewhere on the coast of South Carolina. But especially when I was little, one of our favorite things to do was to go out to the inlet during low tide and hunt for sand dollars and starfish and any interesting shells that had washed up during high tide. And once when I was 3 and my brother was 5, my father led us far out onto the wet, sandy plain that low tide revealed. And we walked way out beyond where we normally walked, led by our curiosity from one sandbar to the next, further and further away from shore. And I suppose our curiosity got the better of us, because even my father lost track of time and how quickly the tide was coming in. And by the time we headed back, the water was rising around us dangerously fast. And again, being 3 and 5, my brother and I couldn't combat the current and the waters by ourselves. Thankfully, my father was 6'5" and very strong. So when he could no longer pull us through the water holding our hands, he lifted us up into his arms. And of course, that meant that we couldn't hold on to the buckets and the pails and all the treasures that they held. And though my father was increasingly afraid, he didn't want us to know. So as he lifted us up, he said, "It's okay, boys, just let go of the buckets. We'll come back and find them another time." And he started to sing. He sang as the water came up to his waist, and he sang as the water came up to his chest, and he put us on his shoulders. And he got us to sing along with him so that we wouldn't look at the water and be afraid. And I wasn't afraid. In my 3-year-old mind, there was no safer place to be than on my father's shoulders. There were no waters that could snatch me from his arms. All I needed to do was to be still and sing. And it was years later when, for some reason, I asked my dad about times when he was most afraid, that he reminded me of that journey through the waters. And he said, "I wasn't just singing for you, I was singing for me too." And that's the other sense in which we need to hear God say, "Be still and know that I am God." It's the storms that rage in here, inside our own hearts. Because we all know that it's not just the storms and the armies that are out there that make our lives so hard. It's the everyday battles between fear and faith that rage inside. And it's there too that we need to hear God saying, "Be still and know that I am God." In the same way, the psalmist could say to Jerusalem, "God is in the midst of her. She shall not be overthrown." God says to us, "I am in the midst of you. You will not be overthrown." God is in our midst. He is in us as a people as we gather here. He is in each one of us, in here, in our hearts. We are his holy dwelling. We are his home, and we do not have to be afraid. Nothing can snatch us out of his arms. No army can take us away from his care. No waters sweep us away. And that's a very good reason to sing. But there's one other image that we should notice. The psalm mentions a river whose streams make glad the city of God. And it's an odd thing to say because there's never been a river flowing through Jerusalem. Certainly not on Mount Zion, not the Temple Mount, because it's a mount. It's up on a ridge line, so there's never been a river there. But it's an image often associated with the place where God dwells with his people. Starting all the way back in the Garden of Eden, paradise is described as a mountaintop garden with rivers flowing out of it. And ever since, God's temple is imagined in the new heavens and the new earth as a place with crystal clear rivers flowing out from under it into every direction. Paradise, that place where God lives with his people, is that place of peace and safety where refreshing rivers of life flow. It's no coincidence, then, that when Jesus died on the cross, not in Luke, not in this morning's gospel, but in John, a soldier pierced Jesus' side and a stream of water and blood poured forth. And that's not just some gory detail, okay? That's the river. That's the river that God is telling us about. That Jesus is where we dwell with God. Jesus is our refuge. Jesus, our place of safety. It's in Jesus' proclamation of God's mercy and love that we find that stillness and that safety. It's in the life-giving waters of baptism that cleanse us, as in his blood given to us through every Eucharist that flows into us, that we are saved. In Jesus, we are already in that place of safety and protection. You don't need to run to or from anything. You just need to be still and know that Jesus is God. We need to hear his words to be still. When the waters are rising and our anxieties are telling us to hurry up and do something, we need stillness. When we cling desperately to our treasures, trying to take control of things for ourselves, we need to be still and to let it go. When it feels like it's all going to crumble and fall down around us, even when it feels like it's the end of the world, we need to be still and know that he is God and sing. The Lord of hosts is with us. The God of Jacob is our stronghold. The Lord of hosts is with us. The God of Jacob is our stronghold. The Lord of hosts is with us. Jesus, the Son of God, is our stronghold. Amen.